Awesome.
All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's John Winkler. I'm with Securable.io. This is my colleague and friend, Chris Jones. He's also with Securable. Today, we're going to be discussing a topic that I personally am very passionate about. So if I sound really excited and I start breathing very heavily, that's probably why. So the topic for our more or less discussion, so please, if you've got questions, there'll be a spot for questions at the end, but feel free to just raise your hand, interrupt, speak out. We want this to be more like a dialogue, a communication with everyone, more so than just hi, slide 1, X, slide 2, Y. So please.
We feel that we can learn as much from you as you can learn from us. So yeah, please interact with us.
All right, so let's get started. So a little bit about myself. Oh wow. I'm John Winkler. I'm our directors of sales engineering there. Basically, I hold a few different hats, but I'm a primary engineer on our team, so I get down and dirty with the code. But also, I have the great joy of speaking with all of our clients on the phone, trying to figure out what their true problem is, and then building our solution towards that. But that's not what we're here for. My background: I've got a bachelor's of computer science. I have been in the Army Reserve for about 11 years now. I'm a full stack dev. I do DBA work, and I'm a sales engineer. You'll notice I'm not really a security engineer, so a lot of the down and deep security portions, if you've got questions towards that, I can point you to some really smart people who I work with that can answer those questions, but I'm more of the developer side of the house and the overall product direction side, so to speak. I'm an avid gamer. Right now, I'm finishing up Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm playing the newest expansion of WoW, and I finished Homefront, and there's a few other things. But I used to do a little bit of IRC scripting back in the day, and of course, like everybody else here, I'm a cybersecurity enthusiast.
All right. Hello, everyone. Christopher Jones. I actually graduated with a bachelor's in business administration and major in marketing from Kent State, but loved cybersecurity, loved technology so much that here I am today. And I'm a software engineer at Securable, security researcher. We need to stay up to date on latest, greatest. That's what we're doing here. We're always learning. And my claim to fame in information security was being suspended from high school, for installing a rat systematically across the entire school's network. That's basically the only ponage I've been responsible for. All right. Other than that, I'm a lover of coffee, cold beer, and cross-site scripting. All right. We're here to talk to you today about human firewall. Now, to break down what human firewall is, it's not setting your employees on fire. It's a term used to describe a scenario in which the users of your system understand and follow the security policies so well that users are almost as effective or more effective than hardware at stopping penetration, as stopping exploitation of your systems.
Yeah, I can talk about the quote. Can I also just mention that this is the first time I've heard you on a microphone, and you've got a great radio voice.
Well, thank you. And pace for radio.
Yeah. We put a little quote on here, and both of us follow this individual who happens to be a Twitter poster for cybersecurity news, and they said, as InfoSec folks, we have to tell people to patch like doctors say, diet and exercise. Really, this is an interesting thing, and it caused me to sit back and think, and there's a phrase I've been using around the office quite a lot, and that's patch your people. It's the idea that keeping all of your employees up to date, knowledgeable, understanding, they don't need to know the deep down and dirty, but they need to get that booster shot. Get those little pieces of information to keep them as that strong defensive point, that front guard and sentry to your overall network security plan.
Yep. Fun little quote here. I'm sure most of you are well aware. Networks are hard, people are soft. It's much easier to breach a person. So threw that in for fun. You go on to the next one. All right. And before we get into this, a bit of the problem we're solving is how do you get Jim in sales to use more than one password, which was definitely exposed in the LinkedIn data breach or a number of other data breaches. How do you get Carol in accounting to stop clicking the phishing emails? This is a difficult problem we're all facing.
So the purpose of this slide is just to kind of show some of the biggest kind of latest breaches that have been caused by that human element. Things that were led because of phishing and spear phishing. And yes, there's other pieces to it, like malware was installed, backdoor access was initiated, and tools were put in place to allow that backdoor transfer of data, large data be downloaded, things of that nature. But these all started with that human element. It was because that one person, those two people decided that they were going to click on that email, download that tool, or click on that email, go to the page, and sign in. So you've got Yahoo, DNC, the NSA hacks. There was various different versions of those that started with malware, emails that got sent out. You can see from the side, it costs a really ridiculous amount of money towards businesses across the globe. And it's the sad thing is, and the hard thing that we try to solve with this idea of a human firewall is, it's not slowing down. The individuals who are doing these phishing attacks, these malware attacks, they're getting more sophisticated, they're getting smarter, and the scary thing about it is they're making these great tools and putting them out there for free to use, that are in either low pay or free to use, so that even the dumbest factor can pick up this tool, pay $50, and all of a sudden they've got access to put ransomware on people's computers and start, gaining money from it.
That's a great point, John. I'd say the barrier to entry for hacking is lower than it's ever been before. The number of open source tools, breaches, the community even. There is a lot of support for people who want to hack. So, in some ways that's great. And in some ways that's, I guess keeping us all employed. And at the same time, not only do you have script kiddies constantly attacking, but you have some of the smartest people in the world working every day to breach your systems. So it makes sense that you should have to work just as hard to protect against them.
So it brings us to the actual real problem. It's what Chris just mentioned with Jim and Carol. It's the idea that you've got this super sophisticated system that you might have just been very smart and set up for a really low amount, or you've got tons of money invested in this awesome security system protecting all of your data and your network, and you've got all kinds of different pieces in there. Maybe you've got air gap systems and all kinds of things, and then all of a sudden just one person clicks. How do you stop that human element? And really it comes down to making sure that they understand what's out there and making sure that your people are properly trained. And there's a lot of resources to do that. But that training obviously is necessary, but there's going to be some things that always come up. It's I heard it in the afternoon keynote. How many of you were in the afternoon keynote and listened to him talk today? One of the things he mentioned was I don't remember the exact layout of the story, but the general message was, she clicked on the message. She goes, "Oh, it was cute. It was a cat. I wanted to click. It looked legit." But how do you make sure? What? Oh, sorry. How do you make sure that she understands that that's not the case? And there's a lot of steps that these individuals will take to, kind of fool you into clicking on these emails and downloading their malware.
I could say. After all of the talks I've heard today, actually terrified because no one is safe. I've heard John speaking. He was riffing earlier today and talking about how they owned McAfee and Symantec, and there are a lot of ways through IDS systems, through AV systems, and the moral of the story through all of that, because there's a cat and mouse game with hackers and sysadmins, and the moral of the story is we need to be able to recognize aberrant behavior. We need to understand things out of the norm, and we need all of the people in our organization to understand these same things at a very basic level. And that can create an incredible additional layer of security for all of you.
So, and one of the things that's important about creating that layer is the idea that the training that you get, I don't know how many of you sit through like annual cyber awareness training through your work, or you get a monthly or quarterly piece of, training that comes down. It's half an hour, you log in. It's the same thing from last month, maybe a year prior, and it gets really boring. Or maybe it's to the point now where you just know, click 2 for 1 and 2 for 2, and then it's answer B, and that's it. All you got to do is hit next as fast as you can, and then answer the questions with the same quiz that you've had every single time. So the idea is making this training effective, making it engaging, making it come to the individuals on in a timely manner that is also in a method that's easily ingestible by them. So you might have not a whole lot of time, so an infographic works better for you, or you've got a long commute, so podcasts work better for you. So making sure that engaging content comes at the right time. Yeah.
All right. So I'm curious, and we said we wanted this to be a dialogue with all of you. What types of security awareness training you've all seen out in the wild? Does anyone have a policy or awareness training program in place at their place of employment? Yeah, what do you do?
Well, previous job, I worked kind of front lines.
Okay.
So I was kind of the audience. Talking about.
Yeah.
It was one time a year, and exactly what you said. I mean, they changed the answers, but.
So a little quiz.
This is probably Fortune 100.
How many times did you take that quiz in your tenure at the company?
Once a year.
But, like how many times?
Oh,
6 times?
Gotcha.
By that 6th time, how engaging was it for you?
He memorized all the answers.
Like I said, they changed the answers around.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So our solution is to turn your organization into your blue team. And that seems a bit lofty in my eyes, knowing what a blue team does and how they have to defend. But you want your organization to be your defenders. And this is something that I know is possible. I've seen my aunt who doesn't know how to use a computer sharing the latest Google Docs hack and warning her family and friends. And because, yes, security is interesting. That's why we're here. People can engage. People want to share. People want to protect each other. But we just have to find a way to make this content engaging and tell them, yes, please update your Windows system. Download that latest iOS update because there's a reason it exists. There have been leaks, there have been vulnerabilities, and we're going to go through some of the steps you can take to turn your organization into your blue team.
Oh, thank you. I know you all can read, so I'm not going to, insult your intelligence. But just reading the left side real quick. Personalized, actionable, low friction, adaptive, up to date. These are the types of things that I was just talking about on that last slide. Making sure that the educational content that you give is going to be in that right format. It's going to be something that they'll want to read, they'll want to share, that they'll be excited to see. I know excited's a hard, like he said, a lofty goal, but it's the idea that it's not going to be something that when they look at it, they go, ugh, I got to take this stupid thing again. Hold on, I'll get back to you in 30 minutes. It's something like, oh, cool, I wonder what else is new. I know I started doing a monthly kind of InfoSec presentation for some of my friends, putting something together to put out there, and it's actually gotten quite a lot of good traction by a lot of them. I get a lot of good questions. People come back to me and say, hey, so you were talking about that WannaCry thing. I read a whole lot about it. I saw it on the news channel XYZ that I watch. What actually is that? How do I protect myself? I saw a thing about the Google Docs phishing. I saw I saw that Yahoo was a hack. When did that happen? That happened how long ago? But now why is that a thing? And how does that kind of affect me? So
I'm not talking about an entire memification of cybersecurity education here. You need to make it digestible and interesting. But I wonder if anyone out there has attempted an alternative approach. I've seen infographics floating around LinkedIn. I've seen newsletters. One of my favorite podcasts is Risky Business, and it makes it extremely interesting to listen to. Have any of you tried to implement a policy like this in your own company or educate your people? It's really hard because, yes, apathy and the fact that Jim in sales just wants to sell. He doesn't care about the latest patch or, latest data breach, even though he should. So, alright, doesn't look like there's much alternative content out there, but this is something we're trying to change. This is something we're proposing. We think it could work.
Thanks, Chris. So, real quick case study. I wanted to bring up Anthem. They recently, within the past, it's been over about the past 2 years, dropped 80 million different data records out. So they had a data breach of about 80 million records. So there hasn't been a set, at least from what I found, a set cost to this. But when you think of the average cost to a business per HIPAA record that's lost, it's astounding. So you times that by 80 million, and I can tell you it's going to be over $80 million. But when you look at the steps that the individuals actually took to breach Anthem, it was your typical email-based malware cycle. They got an email, they opened the email, they downloaded the malware. That malware ended up getting installed. Through there, the hacker was able to escalate his privileges, insert some backdoors. They got access to the enterprise data warehouse for Anthem, and then they just started downloading the records. There's a lot of hardware-based solutions to this. There's a lot of different solutions that having a good security, a good security team and an incident response team. There's different things that you can have that will help with this, of course. Better antivirus, all different kinds of things. And there's a lot of really smart people here today that could tell you about all these different tools that you can use to help with that preparation and also the, oh shit, things have happened, how do I fix it aspect. What we're trying to help with in the industry is stopping it before any of that is needed to make your jobs easier. It's the idea of that human firewall. It's right there. That email's received. It's getting them to recognize that that email is not a legitimate source, understanding how it can affect them and make them go, that's not good, I need to report this, mark as spam, contact my security point of contact, and move forward from there. So all those other tools and steps are great, but wouldn't it be better if they weren't needed as much because your organization understood security? And that's the basis behind it.
I know there are a lot of really smart people out here in the audience today. Does anyone have an in-depth understanding of Anthem or what happened? Because what we want to do here is go through and see where humans were compromised, where systems were compromised, and maybe find some solutions on the journey here. Yeah. All right. So we're going to keep on going. And as far as Anthem, as far as all the data breaches and the people who've been compromised, if they had some source of education, if they had the knowledge to know not to click that phishing email, that could have been prevented. All of that money we had up on the board earlier, that would not have been lost. So here we have a list of resources. Personal learning, Udemy, Cyber, Securable. Have I been pwned? Everybody here knows about that, right? Awesome. And micro-learning, easily digestible content, snippets. This can be broken down because the average person has an attention span of about, a Tekken match. Yeah. So, yeah, you want to make it very quick and you want it to be low friction. You do not want to disrupt people's day because then they're going to somewhat harbor resentment about having to do this content, having to learn about cybersecurity. You don't want that.
Thank you. So let's talk about a little bit of the value analysis to having a more in-depth cyber training policy and system in place. Most of you probably know who PricewaterhouseCoopers is, PwC. They put out many different white papers every year. Where these stats came from was their annual U.S. cybercrime survey, but there's also some things from the Ponemon Institute and from RSA, who I know has a booth out here. If anybody here is from RSA, I'm looking forward to your conference next year. But to go through a couple of stats we found in PwC's survey, when they reached out to the organizations that they ended up talking to, and they asked them, how many of you actually have in-depth cyber security education that goes outside of just typical policies, only about 50% of the companies said, yes, we do. And then when they dove into that deeper, there was an average loss difference for each of them of about $500,000 per year, based off of the threats that they were either competing against or were hit by. That alone, for SMB, for small and medium businesses, that it can be a devastating amount. For larger businesses, it might not be so devastating, but as we all know, when your business scales, the cost per cybercrime and the amount of cybercrimes that are trying to affect you also grows as well. So that number scales with the size of your business. It was in one of the RSA articles that I read that they mentioned that a new phish campaign happens every 30 seconds right now. It means every 30 seconds someone is putting something together to try to get your information, get access into your system or someone's system. And the thing I found really interesting was just having a baseline phishing awareness program that will have a return on investment, which means if you spend $10 a month on security, you should save $70 for that month in cost for what you would have paid for cybercrime when you look at the large scale. But the average was somewhere between 7 and 37x ROI, which can be huge in cost savings. And that's a great stat to put on a slide when you're trying to explain why cybersecurity education is so important to the executives for your company.
All right.
Yep. So I want to thank you all for coming and listening to our talk today. I'd like to open up the floor for any questions. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Shaming. Okay, so it's carrot or stick, and we've even considered Okay, I'm sorry. Yep, and here we are. So shaming employees, and that comes down to the question of carrot or stick. Do you praise them for good security practices, or do you put a wall of shame up as far as people who have fallen victim to our phishing campaign internally? And I don't have an answer for that. I don't know if shaming is an effective strategy.
So in my personal experience, I would say that shaming, in front of everybody is not a good strategy. It ends up, huh? Yeah, well, you bring it to their supervisor, and then their supervisor pulls them into another room, and then they have that hard conversation. If it's someone who's a repeat offender after several months of education, delivered to them, yes, then you have that hard talk. But really, it should come down to being more of the carrot style of a good job, you completed your training, here's a badge to throw on your LinkedIn profile. Good job, you're here, everybody who's trained this month, maybe they're doing some sort of an event for, those individuals or something of that nature. There's a lot of different management techniques that are out there that people can take advantage of. And, shaming, I would say, is not really one of those good ones. And
so you have an employee of the month, but do you have a worst employee of the month? So, something to think about. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah.
Elderly secretaries. Every email that they've ever seen before gets forwarded.
I was talking to a gentleman yesterday about how a woman clicked a phishing email, system compromised, they went in there, ripped it out, brought her a new computer, fresh image, she clicked the exact same phishing email. Yeah. And they're like, I don't know how to explain this to you.
20 minutes later.
Yeah, 20 minutes later.
Any other questions?
All right.
Well, again, thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.